UTMB race recap. I did this race 10 years ago and a lot of things went wrong. Since then, I've done 40 ultras. I thought I have so many areas I can improve on. Couldn't go any worse than my first time out at UTMB, which was my first mountain ultra. I finished in 29 hours and 30 minutes or so, and it was about 85th place. This is the story of putting all your eggs in one basket, that breaking, trying to find another basket, quickly trying to find enough baskets, and then just running out of baskets. And then I don't know where your eggs go after you don't have any baskets, but that's where they went. So this season was always going to be a bit of an issue. I knew that we were going to be spending our summer with the family back in Canada and the States in a particularly flat and boring section of the country, the Toronto and then upstate New York area. So there's going to be absolutely no mountain training, definitely no mountain training. The biggest vertical weeks would look like 1,000 meters. And I was going to get super fit and then translate that, come back in mid-August, back Italy side, hit the mountains with an altitude camp, do a massive week, maybe two if I could, my body could handle it, 2 weeks, taper really short, 1 week right into UTMB, nail it. And given that UTMB is not actually that mountainous, or I should say doesn't have that much elevation, I thought this plan was foolproof. What could possibly go wrong with 3 young kids and having to manage them outside of any camps or childcare for all of August? But that wasn't even the thing that did me in. So part of the strategy, I needed to get some absolutely massive mileage weeks in. And I started to ramp up, and in mid-July, I was hitting weeks of 150, 160 kilometers, which for me is massive. I don't normally do that much, especially flat running. And looking back, it's easy. But at the time, I was just running on country roads. So it's all paved. I hardly had any trails to run on. So I'm running paved, and these country roads were extremely cambered. They're like about 5% cambered, and I was obviously running on the same side of the road constantly. And so for 160, 150 kilometers a week, I was hitting, my legs were always like this, and then my knees started to feel weird, and my hips started to feel weird. And then on the final week of my big flat running, 3 days in, I had done 20K Monday, 20K Tuesday, and 50K on the Wednesday. And if you're counting, that's some quick math you did there, that is 90K. I thought that was gonna be okay, and my hip started to aggravate, and I was like, oh, this is not good at all. I know this hip thing, I've done this before. It happened when I ran too much flats and when I do too much speed work on the flats. But whatever, just ignore it, we'll get over it. And fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, that hip injury led directly into this epic stag party that we had that was one of my best friends. I was standing in his wedding. It was a challenging, I knew this was gonna be a tough week, but I was like, okay, well, this is a good time to just take off some time from running, let the hip heal. And in between, the stag was 1 weekend and the wedding was the following weekend. In the between, I'll get some running in. Everything will be fine. So the stag was significantly crazy. And if you don't know this, a fact of life is if you have an age where all your friends are getting married and you have a lot of stag parties and you're, say, going to more than one a year, they have a certain level of craziness. But then when you haven't had a stag party with your good buddies in a decade, and then you have one, things got a little bit rambunctious. Stag party ends, I'm destroyed, and I gotta get back out running. And so I put the trainers on and get back on the road, and I can hardly move. I look like Lionel Sanders out there. It was bad. I look like an ugly Lionel Sanders.
That would tell most people that Sanders is safe, but we cannot say because the imbalance in the regularity of his form is now exacerbated greatly by the fatigue.
It was that bad. And it took 10K for me to not be feeling like I was doing this, like, I don't even know what you call it, almost like 3-legged horse running. So I had a big conversation with my coach because I tried 3 days of this and it was just incredibly painful. Even after 15K, my hip, like, it was so sore. Then post running, I could hardly walk. So I talked to the coach and we decided, okay, well, we're gonna have to really risk this. We're gonna have to shut it down almost completely for a week and a half, which is what we did. Did the wedding. That was also a crazy party, good times. And then got back to Italy. Hip was still hurting quite a bit, but I needed to get out there. And so I did get out there for a little bit. It was 3 mountain days that were quite short by my typical standards because I need a lot of mountain training to actually ever be competitive at these things. So I did 3 days, 20K, 2,000 meters kind of thing, which is hilarious thinking that I could prep. Well, I didn't think I could prep, but it was the best I could do at the time with my hip. But having that as my prep going into UTMB, which is what I would typically do in 1 day in tour training. Okay, well, clearly this race isn't going to be a competitive race. I still had no doubts that I would beat my time from previously, but my dreams of really coming in top 20, top 30 were completely out the window. And now the only reason I was very motivated to get this done, apart from I wanted to experience UTMB again, especially because I like to make fun of it a little bit. So you got to experience it and know what you're talking about to properly make fun of something, is I needed to get a Hardrock ticket. Hardrock, the race in the States, is one of the only races that is of interest in North America. And it's very hard to get into. And there's a very small list of races that qualified to give you a ticket to be able to be in the lottery. I didn't have any more tickets, and you got to keep putting in tickets. I think I've been in for 5 years now. So once I get to about 10 years of lottery tickets, my chances of actually being selected to run the race will be significant, or at least likely to happen. Well, having no competitive pressure for this race was actually quite relieving. So I was able to enjoy UTMB week. I saw tons of friends and people around the villages and in Chamonix. It was awesome not to be normally hermited up like I am prior to Tour des Géants, where I'm taking it very seriously. The kids were there, so that was, a whole mess by itself. The weather started to turn quite nasty for the race, which I was super excited about. So it was looking like it was going to be pretty cold, rainy, and generally not too bad, but that's perfect for me. Now, my strategy for the race was that given I had no fitness, so I wasn't going to go uphill very fast, that I was going to make up all this time on the downhills. I was going to absolutely slam the downhills. I was just going to have to tell my legs to shut up and the quad pain to go away, and I'd make up all my time and placing that to the best of my fitness level. And to put this in perspective, my fitness level going into the UTMB was equivalent to sort of right middle of my off season when I'm just doing very, very little running. So I had no fitness, so I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to rely on that at all. It was purely gonna be zeal and strategy that I was gonna get through this race on. What was also kind of fun was being able to be in the elite pen. That is such a time saver. So I show up about 25 minutes before the race goes off, and you can sneak into the front. I was not in the very front where you walk down the front and give the Queen's wave to everyone as you go by. I was more in the second tier pen, which was awesome though, because you go in and you can actually sit down chatting with people. I had my water bottle, so I was just chatting with, and a lot of my friends were up in there, so it was really fun to go ahead. The music comes on, and strangely, I'm not nervous, because I guess I internally accepted that my expectations are so low for this race that I had no nerves. It was just really fun being a part of. And I think, given that I won't be going back to this race, it was an awesome way to experience it, apart from actually achieving a goal. But then you don't get to fully live in the moment, I feel like, with all the fun activities and the noise and stuff going on elsewhere. Gun goes off. Running down the streets of Chamonix. The Conquest of Paradise is playing. It is awesome. The crowds are going crazy. There are so many people. If you want a Tour de France experience in trail running, this is it. You probably see it online if you've ever watched UTMB. But being in the middle of it is even more unbelievable. It is such a great environment and experience. This is by far the best thing that UTMB brings to the table, is this fan environment experience that you get to do. But in the early kilometers, it's pretty flat as you lead out of Chamonix. It was pretty noticeable that my fitness clearly was where I expected it to be. And the perceived effort is always the same in races. It's just whether you're actually being competitive or you're just in the back of the pack. But because since I started my running career in the back of the pack, I know this feeling. Like, you're trying so hard, everyone is passing you, and the guys you don't think should be passing you are. It's just a frustrating feeling, but you just got to come to grips with it and know that your training is not as good as the other guys, likely. So we get over the first climb, and it is awesome. The town is electric. There are so many people. It is so loud. Let's start climbing up to Col de Bono. Oh no, let me reverse. Stopped in the aid station, where I get to see my parents for the first time, which I think is in Les Cantamis. And they're like, I'm like, hey, what place am I in? And they're like, oh yeah, you're doing great. So I'm like, okay, that's not good. They're like, no, just tell me the number. And he's like, oh, like 250th or so. I was like, oh man, 250th. Like, yeah, that's not looking good. So head out there, put my jacket on. It's raining. It's been raining since the start. And going up the Col de Bono, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember this. And looking back, one of my favorite things, I don't know why, I just love looking at the light trail of headlamps as they come up the mountain. So I'm like taking photos, videos, and people, obviously the people around me are being competitive for where they want to finish. But for me, I'm in 250th place, and so I'm just like, oh, I'm just here, I'm just having a great time. So people think I'm so weird filming stuff and stopping to take pictures. On the climb is one of the most famous and loudest sections of the course, at least for me, because the crowds were gone later in the race because I was so slow. So we're going up and it's pouring down rain. I've got my hood up because it's cold. My head torch is on. It's lighting up the rain, so it's quite hard to see. And the people are leaning into the trail. So I guess there's a space between me and the next runner. People are leaning into the trail and they're just loving it. They're going absolutely crazy. There's so much noise happening and I'm just like loving it. I'm like high-fiving people. And then all of a sudden, like my vision goes a little bit blurry. My ear starts ringing. A guy had let off a foghorn right in my ear. And I haven't felt that kind of experience since like getting hit really hard in the head, which I had a helmet on, by a hockey puck. And so and it's disorientating and you kind of like lose your balance a little bit. So that was an experience. And now I can see why some of my friends actually brought earplugs as they went past some of these sections. Another one of the things that went wrong for my races, I hadn't recce'd this race and I hadn't seen this certain sections of the course. Like I knew the Italian sections quite well, but none of the French sections. I had only done it 10 years ago and that was my whole recollection. And I just thought it was a classic massive alpine climb up to Col de Bertone and then down. Well, it turns out there's a little bit of a traverse up there. And I've got my jacket on, my hands are starting to get cold. I'm like, oh, should I stop and put more clothes on? I'm like, no, I got this. I'm just gonna pop right over the col, get down, and we'll be going quite quickly on the descent. So I get to the top, see the signpost, which usually indicates a col, and now we start running sideways. And the wind hits me straight on. I'm totally soaked, and now my hands are totally frozen, and I can't move them at all. So the fingers are going, so now the fingers are no longer working, and now I'm turning into like a penguin. I've got flippers, because I can't move. Like I'm losing so much feeling in my hands that like I can't even control holding the poles. So now I have to stick the poles under my armpit and flap around like a penguin. And I keep going. I'm like, well, only one way to deal with this is to keep going. And I'm like, I think there's an aid station up here and there should be a shelter or something that I can get in, and then I'll put on my pants, put on the rest of my clothes, my gloves once I warm up my hands. So we got there. It's a tiny little marquee little tent thing set up, and it's got two sides are fully open, so the wind is going right through it. It's doing absolutely nothing. There's 10 people huddled in there, or more probably. So I go in there and I'm just like looking around. Some of the volunteers are helping other runners get stuff on because they're shivering and looking really rough shape. And the wind is howling through this thing, and there's fog and there's rain. It's wet. It must be like 0 degrees because it's snowing just a little bit. So everyone's freezing. Luckily I've got my jacket on. I have my poles tucked under my armpit. I have no gloves. I'm like, all right, this isn't going anywhere. So I just got to get down the hill. It's like, at least I can bomb down this hill. But the problem is now all my muscles are really, really cold. My hands are done. So now I'm turning into like a Tin Man penguin as I try and make my way down this hill. And it turns out the hill also was a bit grassy and now it's obviously soaked. I didn't see anyone that I passed on the descent make it down without falling. And it was so slow going. It was unbelievable. So my whole plan about making up time on the descents, that's out the window too. See you later, basket of descent, fast descending. Get into the aid station, which is a full-on aid station, because that was what my goal was, just get in there. So I haven't eaten anything in a while because I can't use my fingers. So I get into the aid station, and obviously the volunteers, the aid station, it's in Les Chapeaux, I think it's called, or something like that. It's the first main one in the valley after you get over Col de Bertone. And the volunteers see how freezing I am, and they quickly come up to me. They pull me over and they say, grab this pot of soup that's on a stove on fire that has a burner under it. And I was like, ooh, that could be a bad idea because I'm not going to be able to know how hot this pot is once I grab it. He's like, no, it's good. You just grab it. So I grabbed the pot for a while, and I'm just thinking to myself, if I'm getting 3rd-degree burns on this like 100-degree-Celsius pot, I'm not going to know it. And my hands are going to go from thawing, which you start to get the tingles and the pain, and then it's going to be 3rd-degree burns on the insides of my hands. Now, luckily, it worked out okay. And after my hands warmed up, then I could start to put on the rest of my clothes, and I just kept eating warm broth, drinking warm broth. And I just sat there, took a little mental reset because it was just like brutal. And the thought crossed my mind is like, do I really want those Hardrock tickets? Like, what's another year of not having been in the lottery for Hardrock? And then I'm just thinking, oh gosh, like my whole family's here. My parents came to crew, and crewing apparently was quite an expedition for my parents. They said it was almost like, it just felt like an awful job versus the tour where it's fun and you're in the environment and the volunteers are happy to see you. Like the UTMB was just rough. The logistics of the bus also a little bit rough apparently for the volunteers. Bus drivers not knowing where they're going and overcrowded buses. Anyway, I didn't know any of that. So So it's a really good thing I continued on. All right, up and over Col de la Seine, whatever it is, into Italy. This was super annoying because it's a really runnable climb. And my muscles were still really frozen, so I wasn't able to really get them working properly. But it was now nice because it was full on snow versus rain, which is like 1,000 times better to be in snow than rain in the high winds. I had all my clothes on, and it's the first time I've ever, in any race I've been in, worn my waterproof pants. And fortunately, I had the Montane really light ones, and they're absolutely spectacular in this. Great at keeping the warmth in. Got over, legs started to warm up a little bit. I was like, oh, it's starting to feel great. Oh, no, now they've cut out the pyramids, the only real mountain experience you get on this whole course. They cut that out, so now it's a flat run all the way down the valley. Pretty much you do a little up and down before the col that overlooks Courmayeur. Down into Courmayeur, see my parents. Yeah, pretty relieved, but now I'm like, morale is picking back up again. My muscles are loosened up. I'm able to get running again. I've left that penguin tin man back in the mountains. I'm feeling great again. And I remember seeing a while ago, maybe it was the last time Kilian ran UTMB, I saw him take bicarb during the Courmayeur break. And so I said to myself, if Kilian can do it, then obviously I can try it. And I tried it. Well, I'll get to what happened later, but I tried it. I had taken my clothes off and I run out of Courmayeur, run all the little annoying uphill from Courmayeur, getting to the start of the dirt track leading up to Bertone. But on the climb up to Bertone, things start to feel really weird. And I was like, oh, I must be low on energy because I expended so much energy trying to stay warm and I wasn't able to eat that much when I was cold. But I ate a lot in the aid station and I start eating a lot again. And I had one of those big 90-gram carb things. And it's like, ooh, okay, that didn't make me feel better. That actually made me feel worse. So I was like, ooh, this is weird. And I'm just slowing down now. But nothing's wrong muscularly, or like my energy systems are fine. Get to Bertone, and now we're on that really spectacular chute right to Bonatti, where you can look at the Mont Blanc Massif. And things are getting worse and worse. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, finally, my race was finally going to start going well. And now I just feel weird. And it was kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to describe. I don't even know how to describe it. It just felt weird. Get past Bonatti. And I'm thinking back to myself. I'm like, oh man, 10 years ago, this is where I had all my stomach problems. And then it's like, you're kidding me. No, I'm not doing this again. Okay, I'm doing it again. So I run off into the bush and use the bathroom. I'm like, okay, that's the problem. I'm solved now. It's like, get back on the trail. It's like, okay, no, that wasn't the problem. And as I'm running down into Arnouvaz, I instantly, because I've been doing a little bit of burps, and then a little bit came up in the burp, and I go to spit it out. And as I do that, just full on explosion right up the front. And so it's a little bit of a skinny section of the trail as a descent. You have beautiful switchbacks, like really easy for running. And I'm on the side of the trail, leaning my head over the side of the trail, and then my body kind of like lies across the trail. So other runners eventually, and I'm just like out of control. Like if a bear came, I'm not able to move myself because it's like you're in that grasp of where all your muscles are flexing to expel everything from your stomach, my stomach. So people are like, are you okay, in various languages, and I can only give a thumbs up because I obviously can't speak. And I had this thought that when obviously getting sick is not that abnormal in ultras. It happens all the time. But when I see people on live streams and they post photos for some reason of themselves getting sick, they're like running and throwing up and then they continue to run. I don't actually understand how that works because when I'm throwing up, my eyes are watering so much. Like my eyesight's not good at the best times. The only thing I can tell you if it's day or night, and that's pretty much it. And I can't see anything. So it is daytime, I can tell that. So I don't know who's passing me, I can't tell at all. And I'm lying across so people are having to like go over me to get past the trail. And they're all asking, no one's actually leaving me there. They're like asking if I'm okay, and I'm giving them the thumbs up. Like, this is so awesome. And then all I know is a lady runner comes by and she says, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, like you give her this. And then she starts rubbing my back. And I was like, this is so funny. Like we're in a race. I assume her race is going well. You know, she could be going for a competitive time for her. And she stops to rub my back as I'm throwing up over the side of the trail. And she rubs my back for a long time. And I want to tell her, like, it's all good, like, go. But I can't speak, obviously, because I'm just hurling like crazy. So I'm giving her the thumbs up and I'm pointing, like, go. Anyway, so she taps me on the back and keeps going. And I never found out who the good Samaritan of back rubbing throw up runners was. So thank you. Thank you. Going up Grand Col Ferret, I thought I was going to be able to do it really well this time because last year, 10 years ago, I did this race. I was struggling, obviously, because I'd just been sick. I had actually been stuck in the porta potty, and it was a hot day, later in the day than I was there this time. And the sun was baking the porta potty. But this time, I wasn't in the porta potty because I had finished my business all on the trail. And I got out of there, but I got no energy. My motivation, my morale is back down again, doing bad. I'm going up the trail and get over there. Finally, there's that long descent, which I was having trouble running just because morale was low, energy was low because I wasn't eating. Finally, when I got into Le Fouly, I was able to get some food in, got some hard food in. I sat there for about half an hour with another runner who was struggling, and we just chatted, just talking about races and stuff. It was super casual. It was almost like we just had met for coffee. Just kept eating. After about half an hour, decided to head out of there. I need a new motivation. So what is it going to be? And I'm looking at the time, trying to calculate how much longer I've got. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I got to get to Chamonix in time to put my kids to bed so it's not so late so they don't get insanely crazy, because I knew that they're going to be waiting up for me. All right, and then you've got the 3 little annoying climbs out of Champeaux-Lac over to Trient, to Vallorcine, and then on to Chamonix. You're in the hills now. The mountains are done. And, it's just all about trying to get to Chamonix before sunset so I can put my kids to bed on time. And you know what? I'm starting to pick up the places a little bit. I think I'm in like 150th or now or so. So I keep getting the updates as I see my crew, every one of these valleys. These are like little kind of cute, annoying climb sections as you finish up. And as I leave Vallorcine, I was really looking forward to this section of the course, because 10 years ago, I also had a great time as you come up to the mini col there with the road, and then you head up onto the balcony, and you cross the balcony to La Flagire, and you can see a Mont Blanc Massif in the background, and it's spectacular. It's awesome. At the time I did it, the other time when I did it 10 years ago, it was nighttime, but the moon was out and lighting up Mont Blanc. So this time we get to the col, and the volunteers like, keep going, go down like right next to the road. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I want to go up there. They're like, no, new route. So I go down, keep going down, and then you go up into the forest. And this new section of the route was super annoying. It was just awful. It was just like you kind of traverse in the forest, and it's rooty, and you don't get to see anything because you're in the forest. And I was passing some French runners. This is unverified, but who doesn't love a good rumor, am I right? So I asked the French runners, hey, what happened here? Why does the route no longer go up on the balcony, which is the clear better route, like 100 times better than this current route? And they said, this is 2 sources unverified, but separately, they said that UTMB got into an argument with the private landowner, because I guess you have to cross a small section of farmland or whatever it is that the guy has there, and he wanted a large amount of money, and UTMB did not want to pay it. Okay, UTMB. Okay. So I'm pretty frustrated because I was looking forward to this section so much. But anyway, I am the goal and trying to get into the top 100, trying to finish before sunset. And you know what? In the theme of this race, obviously, I failed those goals as well. So got up to La Flagire, and it was kind of funny because we're talking to the people, do you think we can finish before sunset? And then I started thinking, ooh, I better finish before sunset, because there's a section of this trail down from La Flagire into Chamonix that goes through a forest, and I didn't change my headlamp batteries because I thought I would be obviously finished before nightfall. So it turns to night, or at least in the forest, it's dark enough to need a torch, and I only have my little mini backup thing that you never actually want to use, and you only use it to pass kit check. Going down this descent, and I'm like, of course this has happened. Get into Chamonix, but the crowds are still going crazy, and now the sun has set. I'm not in the top 100. I'm in like 120th or something. But anyway, the family was there. It was awesome crossing the line with the boys, and now they're old enough, hopefully, to remember it. So, and for them to experience it was pretty fun. Get over the finish line, see a couple of my photographer friends, say hello, and my family's there, so it's great. Hugs all around, sweaty, stinky hugs. And then my son says, hey, Daddy, I got you something, because I think you came last in this race, but I know that you tried hard, so I got you a rock. And so I got a rock, finisher rock, my own, very own. I think I might be the only finisher with a rock. Well, always easier to look back than it is to look forward. So let's look back. Yeah, I think this is classic situation where I had a plan, and I knew that there was really no ability to alter the plan if I wanted to have a competitive UTMB. So pushing my body on those flats, those cambered, annoying pavement, 150K weeks on the pavement, did my body in. I could feel it coming, and then it totally exploded. And not only was it painful through UTMB and the lead up and everything, and causing me not to actually train. For 2 months after UTMB, I wasn't able to run properly. So that's a lesson I won't learn, obviously. But I knew it's clear looking back. And I guess the big question is that I thought about a lot, especially during the race when I'm just losing A, B, C, D, go all the way to Z, and then I had to go A1 goal. Failed all those two. So looking back during the race, I was like, well, would I have changed anything? And really, because we had planned to have the kids back in North America, I had to see relatives and doing some summer camps there. Wouldn't change that. And then obviously it's like, well, would you just change the stag party? Because that was a huge detriment to the overall training plan. Not sleeping, not eating, drinking well at all. And no, I wouldn't, because those were great experiences. So I would have kept it the same. I still run it. UTMB doesn't mean that much to me. I was using it as a race to try things, which is why I had bicarb at Cormier and stuff like that, and trying different shoes. I think I switched shoes 3 times during the race. I wasn't optimizing for the best scenario in this race, and that was absolutely fine. And it was disappointing. I don't wish. It was awesome. So would I go back to UTMB? That's a hard no. I would maybe do TDS, but UTMB, like the route itself is not great. Another thing I was thinking when I was out there and going up to Grand Col Ferret, I'm like, why does this route suck so much? And I'm like, well, the route doesn't suck. The route is not as mountainy as you would think a mountain race would be. Is probably the best way to put it. It's like an easy hiking trail that we're doing a race around. Now the views are world class. They're the best. You can't beat that. But the thing where it fails is the route itself is not very good. And I'm like, well, the first time I did this race, I thought it was the best thing ever. Why do I think this now? And then I'm like, wow, man, I'm absolutely so spoiled in doing real mountain races where you're in the mountains, you're on the mountains versus just like in the mountains, looking at the mountains, which is what UTMB is. You really feel like you are on top of the mountains in a lot of these races, like Tour de Géants, the old CMUR, the 100 miler, that was absolutely insane. Adamello, SwissPeaks. All of these races are so much better than the route I should say, is so much better than UTMB. And even like the Monte Rosa Ultra Trail, I've never done that one, but I've done a lot of the route. And that is just, it's so spectacular. So if you want a real mountainous feel to and technical and stuff, then UTMB is not it. If you complete UTMB, you can say you've done a mountainous ultra, and that's pretty good. And the fans, unbelievable. That is like the best thing about the UTMB. Well, Hardrock tickets confirmed, didn't get in, but building up those tickets. So thanks for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Any questions or comments about UTMB or any of the other races that are actually better, let me know. And I'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao. Bow, bow.